everyone. I'm Jack, the Rambling Raconteur, and schools are still closed here in Arizona. Thankfully, my family's safe. I hope all of you are. And I'm putting online modules in, but I wanted to take a break right now at lunch, and I saw this tag from Brian at Bookish. It seems very funny, like quick and simple. You're not changing the world here. You're just reminiscing on the past. And you know what? A lot has happened in the past 10 years for me. I got married to my wife. Although I think we were just about to start dating 10 years ago now. I think we were talking to each other, but we hadn't started like dating officially yet. But when I think of the past 10 years, I've got my master's degree. You know, obviously married my wife, but got my master's degree. Have two kids. We bought this house. There's a lot that's happened in the past 10 years for me. And so kind of reminiscing on books I've read across the past 10 years and what are the longest books I read in each of those years has been a fun activity. And with everything that's going on, it's nice to be able to think to positive experiences I've had in the past, positive experiences, reading experiences I've had. So this is the 2010 to 2019, what's the longest book I read tag. I am going to cheat and go back all the way to 2009 because of all the books Brian listed. This was the one common one that I had also read that would have been the longest for a year. I had read a couple of the other ones he read, but this is one that would be the longest for the year. The tag was originally created by Joey at Game of Authors, and so Joey, I apologize. I'm going to start in 2009. In 2009, the longest book I read was Bleak House by Charles Dickens. I absolutely loved it. It is my favorite Dickens novel. It was a joy to read. It's 1,037 pages. In 2010, the longest book I read were The Cantos of Ezra Pound. Did not enjoy that as much as Bleak House. In fact, didn't enjoy whole sections of it. But I do enjoy poetry. I really enjoyed the Provenza volume translated by Paul Blackburn of Provincial poets and troubadour poets from the Middle Ages. And those were a great influence on Ezra Pound. The Cantos was 824 pages. I would recommend selections, not necessarily reading the whole thing, unless you're a huge fan of Ezra Pound. In 2011, the longest book I read, and it was a reread for that year, was George R. R. Martin's Storm of Swords. And that clocked in at 926 pages. I enjoyed A Game of Thrones. I started reading in college. I had a job working the desk, and I would just read the paperbacks at night while I worked that desk or on the weekends when I didn't have any homework or school readings to do. And so I read those in like 2006, 2007. And then I reread them in 2011 because my wife and I had started dating at the time, and she lived in Chicago, I lived in Phoenix. We would mail books back and forth to each other because we both knew we liked to read. And so one of the books I mailed her was A Game of Thrones, and just to get her started on a fantasy series, and she liked it, and so I kind of was rereading the books, and then it turned out that the show came out, and then A Dance with Dragons came out that year, and The Winds of Winter may never come out, but that's okay. 2012, the longest book I read, the first volume of The Years of Lyndon Johnson, The Path to Power by Robert K. Rowe. I really liked this book. I really liked this a lot. It might even be my favorite of the series. I started by reading The Master of the Senate when I was in high school, and I was getting ready to take AP US History. And I just read that book over the summer and absolutely loved it. And my grandfather had the earlier volumes, and so I went back and reread those kind of out of order because I read Means of Ascent about the stolen Senate election, and then I read Path to Power, and I really liked that. I think Path to Power probably humanizes Lyndon Johnson the most of all the books, of the 4 volumes that have come out so far. 2013, I got married, and I also read The Clan of the Cave Bear by Jean Auel. This was 495 pages. 495 pages. It was a busy year and a fantastic year. 2014, the longest book I read was The Portable Renaissance Reader. 756 pages. One of the earliest Renaissance readers, like nonfiction ones I read, and kind of got me started on a kick. Still love these books. 2015, the longest book I read, and this might be the only one that came out that year. This may have come out the year before. Perfidia by James Ellroy. I really like his LA Quartet novels. I really like the Underworld USA novels. Um, didn't like this one quite as much. I think I prefer some of the other ones. Although it was interesting reading a novel that ends with Pearl Harbor, in 1941. Um, so Perfidia. Again, I would recommend Elroy's other novels before ever reading Perfidia. 2016, probably the weirdest book of the list as I went through. This is The Glass Books of the Dream Eaters by G.W. or Gordon Dahlquist. And this is a really, really weird book. This is like steampunk on acid or something. It's a strange, strange novel. We sort of have three characters we follow. It's set in the Victorian age. There's a young woman who's engaged to be married to a guy. There's a bizarre like assassin who's called the Cardinal Chang, and then there's the third character is a sort of clumsy young man who's the doctor to a minor European noble. And gradually, the three of them come into contact with this very sinister conspiracy involving a process that like can steal people's memories or cause them to like lose all their inhibitions. It's a wild book, wild book. But I really liked it. I thought it was very compelling. So Glass Books of the Dream Eaters was 760 pages. If you like steampunk, spend some time with it. 2017, this was my reread for that year, The Cold 6000 by James Ellroy. So starts the day after the JFK assassination, or night of the JFK assassination, and goes through to June 1968, which is the RFK assassination. And we follow three characters: one, a former bagman for Howard Hughes; one, a disgraced FBI agent who now is an accountant for the mob; and the third is a really interesting character who he's a Las Vegas cop, but his family has interactions with Howard Hughes, with some others, and like in Las Vegas. And dark book, dark places. Not one I would really recommend you read right now, but if you really like noir and you really like mystery, give it a shot. 2018, the longest book I read. One of the best books I've ever read. Along with Bleak House, probably Bleak House would in terms of novels, Bleak House would be up there with this one, and on like my top 10 list. Les Miserables by Victor Hugo, 1,432 pages. I actually finished Les Miserables at the hospital after my second daughter was born. That birth went really well. Everybody was really healthy, and I had a little bit of extra time, kind of waiting for our younger daughter as she was sleeping, and my wife was recovering and sleeping. And so when I was awake to listen for our daughter and stuff, I would be reading, and that's when I finished Les Miserables. Perfect timing. 2019. The longest book I read was Dante's Divine Comedy. I've got the portable Dante here. Divine Comedy runs 546 pages, and this specific translation by Lawrence Bean, this is the reason I'm holding this one up. This is my favorite translation of Dante. I'm sure other people have translations they prefer, but I really liked the Binion translation. It does have the terza rima all the way through, and I loved it. So those are the 10/11 longest books I've read over the past 11 years, one for each year. And if you want to, celebrate your past reading experiences, then go ahead and do this tag. Stay safe. I'll see you all later.